Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening. Say hello to me when you're here so I know that you are here. I am going to... Hi, guys. Good evening. How are you? Hi, Adriana. How are you this evening? Hello, everybody. I am getting my questions up. Gabby, hi. Good to see you. Today, we're talking about pronunciation. I thought it would be a very nice topic to talk about. Hello, everyone. Since it's so important to have a good and clear pronunciation, my views about pronunciation and accent are very connected. And I think it's actually very difficult to talk about pronunciation when you completely disregard the accent. Now, you might not know this word, so I'm going to explain it to you. When you disregard, it means that you ignore. So to me, it's impossible to talk about pronunciation disregarding, ignoring, disregarding the accent, because I think those two things kind of walk hand in hand in a way, you know. Although I am not here to tell you that you need to speak like this or like that you need to have this accent or that accent, not at all. That's not the point of my being here tonight. Instead, I really want to help you think about how you can work on your pronunciation to sound better, to sound more clear. Have you noticed something? I'm going to ask you guys a question and I want you to type up the answer for me, okay? The question is, when you're speaking English, okay, when you have to speak, do you feel uncomfortable? Do you feel funny? Do you feel like it's not you? You know, like the words come out and instantly you have this horrible feeling of discomfort, something unpleasant, something not good. Do you feel this? If you do, please say yes. If you don't feel this when you speak English, just say no. Type it up for me, please. I want to see how you guys feel about this. Yes, yes. I have a feeling maybe that most of you will say to me that you do feel uncomfortable. Like it's not a good feeling. It's a funny feeling, you know? Yeah. So Beatrice is a person that does not feel like this, which is great. Hello. But I think most people do feel like that to a certain extent. Okay. I think this is probably what happens, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. My views on this is that you feel like that because you know, because you recognize when you talk, you recognize that you, as a non-native speaker, you sound different to the native speakers. So when you're watching a movie, for example, you're really paying attention to how they talk, and then you go and talk to a friend, or if you live abroad, you talk to somebody in a shop or something in English, and you feel like something is not right. I don't sound like they do. I sound different. So, can you see that working on your pronunciation and making sure that you sound clear will make you feel better about yourself with regards to English? What I mean is, when you work on your pronunciation, you automatically feel better with having to speak English. So English becomes something positive as opposed to something that you dread. When you dread something, you don't want to do it. You don't want to do it. You're dreading it. Oh my God, I don't want to have to speak English. This is so horrible. You're dreading it. You don't dread it anymore because you sound okay. You sound good. Now, there is something very important here that you have got to really pay attention to, okay? How do you know if you sound good? How do you know if the way you speak is okay, if that is how you should, sound, how do you know? I'll tell you now. You know when you're speaking to a native speaker and you say a word and they understand you, and you ask a question and they answer you. So instead of going like this, I'm sorry, what is it? What do you mean, sorry? Instead of this face and those questions, they just give you the answer. You ask a question, would you mind telling me the time, please? Sure, it's actually 20 to 3. They give you an answer. They don't even think about the fact that you're not a native speaker. They notice, probably, chances are is a way of saying probably, chances are they will notice that you're not a native speaker because you will have your natural accent. That's fine. But you asked a question in a way that sounded really clear. And so the way they respond to you is confident and positive, and they start to disregard the fact that you're not a native speaker, and you feel better about yourself. Can you see how all of those things are connected? So you cannot ignore one of those things. They all work together. So what we're going to do now is we're going to answer some of your questions from Instagram about this. So many questions about pronunciation. I think probably the one that I got the most questions for. I was like, what? But there are some specific things that I want to discuss that I thought was really, really cool. There is, this one. This one is the one I want to answer first because I love this question. I think it's so important, okay? Hi, Debbie. Good to see you. I'm happy to see some of my students from the course here tonight. That's awesome, guys. This question, look, it's in Portuguese. So I'm going to just ask the question in Portuguese and obviously answer in English. Por que sua voz fica diferente quando você fala português? Ha! Great question. Yes, it does. My voice sounds very different in English and in Portuguese. And guess what? Your voice sounds very different in Portuguese or whatever your first language is and English. Fact! There is no running away from this. But you want to know why? Because the phonetics from Portuguese are different to the phonetics in English. So naturally, I'm using different sounds. I'm producing different sounds when I speak. So it's not like I'm saying the same word. I'm saying completely different words. And even when I say my name, because if I talk to you in Portuguese and you ask me my name, I'll say Patrícia. And if I'm talking to you in English and you ask me my name, I'll say Patricia. Now, the sounds I make when I say Patrícia are different to the sounds I'm making when I say Patricia. Can you see that it's not even Patricia, it's Patricia. It's different. So of course your voice is going to change. Now I want to say something really interesting to you guys, okay? Right. I just finished watching this series called Normal People, okay? And it's actually an Irish series. Great plot. Maybe you don't know what this word means. Plot is the story, Great plot. Really cool. I loved it. I was very curious, actually, to find out more about the actors who did that because I'd never seen them before and I thought they were great actors and extremely captivating on screen. So I researched about them with my husband and we found out, so remember, this is Irish from Ireland, okay? So in case you don't know this, in Ireland, they have a completely different accent to the UK, to England, for example, okay? So when you think about Ireland and you think about England, very different accent, very different. So we were researching about the actors and we found out that the main actress, the girl from the series, is actually from England. So we went on and watched an interview with her, being herself. And clearly she was talking with a completely different accent. So instead of sounding Irish, she was sounding English from England. And the first reaction from myself and my husband was, her voice is completely different. Yes, now listen to this, guys. It's so important. Her voice was completely different. Oh God, I don't remember her names. Daisy, Sarah, or Daisy Jessica, something. But the name of the series is Normal People. So you can research about her. You go on YouTube, you watch a little bit of the series so you can listen to her voice, and then you go watch an interview and you'll see what I mean. The name of it is not Marianne. Yes, yes. Marianne is the name of the character. I'm in love with her. I just love this girl. She's amazing. Normal People, the name of the series, okay? So it's the same language, guys. She's speaking English when you watch the series, and she's speaking English in the interview. But it's a different accent, and her voice is different. So how do you expect to speak English and have the same voice that you do when you speak Portuguese? Really, it's not going to happen. Completely different phonetics, completely different melody. The way the intonation of the language, the way Portuguese goes up and down and English goes up and down. You've got to respect this, because when you learn to respect this, that is when listen up now, that is when you are able to fully give in to all those challenges and begin to embrace all of this that you are willing to go through, that you want to go through. You are willing to learn, because this is what you want, isn't it? I'm not forcing you to be here right now on a Monday night. You're here because you are willingly here. You want to be here. So you want to learn. So you have got to find a way to allow yourself to be this different version of yourself, because it's amazing. It's such a privilege to be able to speak another language. So don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of not sounding like yourself, because you might just find that you are really still yourself, just with a different spark, a nice touch. But it's still you, really, okay? This other question that I thought was awesome, from Debbie, she's here tonight. Ok, você já comentou que se espelhava em nativos. Quais suas técnicas? I thought that was such a great question. I am a firm believer. It means I really believe, I'm a firm believer in the fact that you must have a muse. You must have somebody, when you're learning English, must have somebody that you look at and you think, I want to sound like this person. This is the person I really want to sound like, and it could be anybody. It could be, and it should be maybe, a native English speaker, because then you've got the perfect intonation up and down and the perfect melody to the language. But it could be British, it could be American. Really, it's absolutely fine. You will choose this person for yourself, okay? But I really think that when you're learning, it is important to have somebody that you look at and you think, this is what I want to sound like. When I speak, I want to sound close to that. Now, it's important that we're talking close. We're not talking perfect. And this, I'm answering another question as well. The question was, so I'm answering two questions in one. Como mudar radicalmente meu sotaque? I'm not talking perfect here. I'm talking close. Close, near, close to perfect. Perfect is possibly not going to happen unless you are a 6-year-old child, which I believe you may not be. So do you see what I mean? Like, not gonna happen. Yes, Gabby, this person could be me, but come on, pick a native speaker. So, you have this person that you listen to and you think, I love the way she sounds. I had some muses. I had some people that I listened to and that I thought were amazing. My first muse, and I did tell you guys about this a while ago on Instagram. Maybe you missed it. But I did write a post saying that my first muse, the first person that inspired me to talk like I did today, was actually a non-native speaker, was my cousin. Because when I moved to England, she had already been there for like almost 10 years. So she was very fluent by that time. She was married to a native speaker. And I remember, and I didn't know any English at all. So this is purely on, the fact that I was listening and I could tell her melody was really nice. Like, I loved to listen to her. And I remember when I did not speak any English at all, I remember listening to her and thinking, whoa, I want to sound like her. Like, she did such a great job. And she did. She speaks really beautifully. Like, her accent is very beautiful. And I wanted to, she was the first person that I looked up to, that I admired in terms of English. And then I had lots of other people that I thought, wow, it's amazing. It's amazing to listen to this person. It makes me feel like English is beautiful. And I really wanted English to sound beautiful. But I have a person nowadays that I love, because I still, especially now that I don't live in England anymore, I have got to listen to English as much as I possibly can, living in Brazil and all, right? So I love listening to Emily Blunt, for example. I love the way she speaks. We have a very similar humor in English. So she makes jokes that I make, same kind of humor, So I love listening to her because I see some of my personality in her, which is also something that I believe is important when you're trying to look up to people. This person has got to have something that you can relate to, something that when you listen to this person, you think, okay, I think that sounds a little bit like me. I think this person believes some stuff that I believe in, or maybe this person sees the world in a similar way to me. And I think that's important too. It's not just the words sound great. I think it's more than that. And that's also why I think it's such an incredible journey to go on. It would be a shame to miss that. It would be a shame to just say, whatever, I'll just speak. I don't care how I sound. I'm like, you should care. It should be something that makes you excited, and again, I'm not talking about perfection. I'm talking about clarity, and obviously, how are you going to learn? How are you going to learn to sound like those people? You can only do that when all your attention is on them when they're speaking. If you're here right now and you're not listening to how my intonation is going, although I'm not a native speaker, if you like the way I speak, but you're not paying your full attention, maybe you're on your phone or you're talking to your kids at the same time, it's very, very hard to be able to mimic. To mimic is to copy, to do something the same way. It's so hard to mimic something that you're not fully aware of. You're not really, when you're listening so hard and you're trying to mimic those sounds in your head. I remember mimicking the sounds in my head, like listening to people and kind of going like up and down with the melody in my head, And I still do that. If I'm listening to somebody, when I was watching normal people, because it's Irish accent is very hard for me to understand. I really struggle. I was really like, wow, I was so intrigued by it. I find it fascinating. And I think this is what gives you a great accent. When speaking in general intrigues you, it makes you feel like you would like to know more about that universe, You see what I mean? So let me see what else. Emily Blunt. Emily Blunt. Let me see. Hold on. About changing, that question about changing your accent drastically, completely changing your accent, okay? It depends, guys. I'm going to be honest here. This is my opinion. It does not mean I'm 100% right. Maybe I'm not. But this is, you know, from all these years teaching, all the people I've met, all the things I've seen, I don't know if you can change your accent completely after, listen to this key point here, after you have learned to speak. Because now you've already learned to speak, which is why I say, listen to as much English as possible. Learn English in English, listening to real English. Because when you do that, your chances of developing a great accent are much greater, much bigger. Don't you see? Because when you're learning English with loads of Portuguese involved, and your teachers or the videos that you watch, people are speaking Portuguese in the middle of English. It's like one sentence in English and then 10 minutes in Portuguese, and then 3 words in English and then 5 sentences in Portuguese. I find that it's so hard to develop a great accent because your brain cannot be switching like that. English, Portuguese, English, Portuguese, English, Portuguese. Your brain needs time to be able to switch. And when you put yourself through those experiences, you're kind of limiting yourself and thus stopping yourself from actually developing this so-called great accent that you wish you had, you know? So the more you are immersed, the more you're actually watching things in English like you are right now. You know, maybe you've been here for about 20 minutes now and you're listening to a lot of English. This is how you develop things. It's not when you're switching Portuguese, English. You know, I said 3 sentences in Portuguese here, which were from questions. But next time I want questions in English, you guys. But you see what I mean? And one last thing before I go that I think is so important, guys. I wish I had answered all your questions because there was some really, really great questions here, but it's not going to be possible, is it? But I'm going to save them for another time. Maybe we can do a part 2 next week. Let me know if you'd like that, okay? There's so much to be said about this. But one last thing I want to say, because I find that extremely important, is there is one thing that I believe really gets in the way of you developing a fantastic accent. What does that mean? When something gets in the way, it stops you from developing the great accent. It gets in the way. It's like, I don't know where I'm going anymore. What is this? One thing that there are so many things, but this is one thing that I always think about, that I really think I should bring to this session. Words in Portuguese, I'm talking Portuguese here because I'm Brazilian, right? Words in Portuguese in the middle of sentences in English. No, sorry, the other way around. Words in English in the middle of your sentences in Portuguese. That is such a bad move. That does not help you, which is why when I hear people saying, vou fazer home office, I want to kill myself. And I'm not joking. Because I think, stop. Hello, 100 people for the first time. Because, first of all, the pronunciation is not home office. It's just not. It's home office. And that is a fact. That is a fact because it's not Portuguese, it is English. So respect that fact. Do you see what I'm getting at here? Number 2, people don't actually use this term abroad. Not in England anyway, definitely not in England. You don't hear people saying, I'm going to do home office. That is like a Brazilian thing using English words. And that is a problem. Why is that a problem? It's only one reason why that's a problem, guys. The problem is when you're speaking English, you forget that you're not actually supposed to say home office. So you use that term in English when it's not used in England. They say, thank you, Andre. They say work from home. And then your pronunciation is completely like just gone down the drain, hasn't it, really? Because now you're saying it wrong. And office is a difficult word to remember how to pronounce. People struggle with office. They say office, everything but office. So then when you're using that in the middle of your Portuguese thing, work remotely, that works as well, yes. When you're speaking Portuguese and you're saying those words, that's just one example, but I have loads of examples. And you're saying that word in English, you're getting yourself into trouble. And I know sometimes it's so hard to get away from this. I know, but you got to fight against it, really, okay? Lovely people. God, I've been here so long. Thank you so much for... sorry. Thank you for joining me tonight. It's been a pleasure to be with you. Really. It's harder. Just one last question here from Raphael. Just read that question. I thought that was such a good one. Raphael saying that he finds it easy to understand native teachers and me, but when he's listening to movies and news, it's harder. Why? Actually, tonight, it's funny that you should say that, because tonight I actually thought to myself, I am going to talk a little bit closer to my natural speed, which is faster than I do on YouTube normally. This is not 100% my natural speed, like I am, it's close, but it's not 100%. I speak a little bit faster, not very fast. I'm not a fast speaker, but I do speak a little bit faster than I do here. And I will sometimes choose words that I want you to understand, because I want you to understand what I'm saying here, so sometimes I kind of quickly pick words and sometimes I'm like, no, that word, I shouldn't use that because maybe they won't understand the sentence, you see? So I do that because I'm teaching you here. Maybe that's why, but you've got to practice. You've got to listen to native speakers as much as you can. And I promise you that if you do that consistently for a little bit of time, you will begin. When I say a little bit of time, I mean about a month every day. You will begin to understand them much better. Don't worry about that, okay? That's it, guys. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I wish I could read everything because you guys always have so much to say here, but I never get to read everything because otherwise I won't be able to tell you any of the great stuff that you wanted to know. But okay, I normally don't talk about my course 100 days here because this is not the time or place to talk about 100 days. This is me giving you content and teaching you and helping you move on and being better, okay? So Claudia, I will answer your question on Instagram about this, okay, guys? Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. I'll see you again next week, that's for sure. Beijos. Bye-bye.